So, welcome to our QuickBooks Point of Sale webinar on reports. Today we're going to take a look at how to run reports in QuickBooks Point of Sale. We'll look at the different types of reports. We'll look at how you can modify those reports. And we'll look at how you can create your own reports. All right, so the first place we're going to run off to is our QuickBooks Point of Sale. So, in Point of Sale, there are a couple of three ways you can get to reports. You can get to reports by going to the reports icon over here in the navigator. You can get to reports by going to the reports blue button. That will also take you to reports. You can also get to reports by going to reports up on the menu bar and choosing a report you want to run from there. All right. So from the menu bar up here, we can see the different types of reports we have available. We can see we have several sales reports that we can choose from. We also have cash drawer reports we can choose from. We have a few payment reports which deal with your ingoing and outgoing monies. We have some customer reports that let you see the various customer type reports we have. We have several item reports that deal with your inventory. Purchasing reports that deal with purchasing your inventory. Employee reports that include things like adding inventory and such things as that, or not adding inventory, I'm sorry, employee sales and employee sales graph. We have some information about financial exchange if you're exchanging your data with QuickBooks Accounting. We also have memorized reports available. And we'll take a look at all those here shortly. So the first thing I want to take a look at is under sales. Under sales, we have best and worst sellers. That shows you what items are selling the best or selling the worst. If we choose that, it will run the report. We can choose the date range we want to see that report for. And we can see our best and worst seller items. The little blue balls in front of the column headers let you choose what you want to be sorted by. So if I want to sort by quantity, right now we're looking at the best sellers. We're seeing which items we sold the most quantity of. I could also look at which one I did the most or the least dollars in. Now we're looking at the worst. We're looking at the ones we sold the least of. By clicking on the triangle again, now we're looking at what we sold the most of in dollars. We could also look at it by cost, worst to best, or we could even look at it by sales margin, worst to best. So you pick how you want to see your items, and you sort by that. Clicking the triangle a second time goes from A to Z to Z to A. So biggest to smallest or smallest to largest. I can go to all reports in sales, and I can see those same reports listed again. And from there, I can choose what it is I might want to look at in those reports. I can look at what is returned most often. So I can do a most common returns report. I am going to say run. Then we'll run that report. It looks like I've got one item that's been returned this year. So, hey, that's pretty good. If I am done with that report, I can click the little red X, and it will close out of that report. I still have my best sellers report. I can choose all reports, And I could choose another report. I could choose an item summary. That is going to show me a summary of my items broken down by whatever columns I have chosen. This one is a modified version of that report. If I go to modify and go to revert, it will revert that report to the standard way it comes out of the box. And now I can see we're sorted by department. We see the vendors also. Typically, you wouldn't see the vendors, but you could sort by vendor as well and see what departments you have for what vendors. This one did not revert completely because this report should not include the vendor or the item name or the attributes. And that's more what it should look like. It also does not need to have subtotals because we're simply looking at the vendors, how many items we sold from each vendor, the retail price of those items, the cost of those items, and the margin we did on those items. Again, we can click the little red X, close out of there. If I go back and rerun that same report again, it is going to look the way it was when I just closed it. Because you might have noticed that when I modified that report and I made a change, the only option I have here is save. Save means anything that I change over here is going to be changed, and when I run it, I'm going to get the results of that report. Next time I run it, I'm going to see the way it was saved the previous time. Under sales, I can do a detail report. A detail report is going to show me that information broken down by receipt. So I can see each receipt. We are sorted by date, so everything that happened on one particular day is grouped together. If I want to see the items on a particular receipt, I can click the plus in front of that receipt, and it will show me the items that were on that particular receipt. Up here at the top, if I click expand, it shows me the items on all the receipts. Or if I click collapse, it will collapse them again, back to seeing just the individual receipt and the receipt totals. All right. Under sales, we also have a department summary, which is the same as our item summary. We can look at a style summary. We can look at a vendor summary. We can look at a promo code summary if you're using promo codes. We can take a look at a discount summary, which will show us any discounts that might have been used and how much was given for those particular discounts. Mobile sales would show us any sales that we did using a mobile device, such as an iPad, an iPhone, an Android phone, an Android pad, and Go payment. Date comparison lets us look at two different dates and compare the sales between those two dates. We can see the dates for this year and the dates for last year and the sales of the various items. My sales this year are horrible because I rarely sell anything in my computer. It's all done whenever I'm doing a demonstration or something. All right. Also under sales, we can look at some graphs. we can run a merchandise sold graph, and that is going to show us our sales that we've had during this year. They are being reported by department, and they're being reported by extended retail, extended price. I could also look at them by vendor if I didn't want to look at them by department. My legend tells me how much I did in each department or each vendor. I could also look at size and see what sizes of merchandise were being sold, or what attributes, or even the item names. Not only can I look at it by price, but I could look at it by cost, by quantity, by margin, or margin dollars. In addition to that report, I've also got a graph for sales over time. That will show me what, in this case, what month had the most sales. And we're looking at number of receipts. I can also look at what day of the month does the best. And it shows you by numerical day of the month what month gets the most receipts. I could look at it by what week of the year did the best, what hour of the day tends to do the best. That can be really useful if you are trying to plan your staffing, because you can see what hours are the busiest and make sure you have more staff available during that time frame. We can also look at what days are the best, so you know what days of the week you need to have the most staff available. We can also take a look at date comparison in a graph, the discount summary in a graph, demographics, a breakdown of sales volume by city, state, and zip code, employee comparisons, which lets us see which employees are doing the most sales. It breaks them down by employee name, and it shows us who's doing the most. Payment methods will show you what tender types you receive the most often. And you can see we have the green is credit cards, the orange is cash, the lighter orange is account, and the sort of brown color is sales other, so like gift cards, gift certificates, and checks. We can also take a look at running stores for multi-store. If you have more than one store, you can look at a store comparison chart to compare how store A is doing against store B. You can look at a summary of the sales volume by store and the items that are being sold by each store. You can also take a look at a tax summary, and that will show you your sales tax summary for how much tax you owe for the particular time frame you're looking at. You can see the total sales in non-taxable and taxable, and the amount of sales tax that is owed for those taxable sales.
So what I want to make sure is
all right. We can also take a look at cash drawer reports. The cash drawer reports include X out, Z out, drawer count and store close, and a payout list. An X out and a Z out are very similar. They both show you your total sales for the time period in question. The Z out store close and X out look exactly alike. The Z out drawer count gives you the same information, except it also has you count the cash in the drawer and verify that what you started with, what came in, match up with what you intend to leave, and it'll tell you whether your drawer is over or short if you did not give out the correct change. If you are running a Z out for end of day, it doesn't matter whether you run a store close or a drawer count. You can run either one. You do not need to run both. They both are exactly the same, with the exception of the drawer count has you count the cash, and it also saves that report as a report you can go back and review for up to a month. And the payout list would show you a list of any drawer payouts you did. Payments allow you to look at the different payments you have received. You can run a payment summary, which shows you the payments you've taken in. It lists what date the payments came in on and how much you took in cash, debit cards, credit cards, account, gift certificate, gift card, or checks on any given day. You can change the date range to run it for whatever time period you would like to see. You can do the same thing for checks, which will show you a list of the checks that you have done. And it shows you a list of the checks that you've taken in. It shows you what receipt that check was on, the date of it, and what the check number was that you entered. You can do gift certificates and gift cards to see what you have on those. You can look at the credit cards that you took, debit cards, or account charges. You simply choose it, choose the date range you're interested in, and run it, and it shows you those transactions. Customer reports, we can take a look and do a customer list. We can do a demographic report of customer locations. We can look at customer sales. That will show us the purchases that our customers have made. And it breaks it down by customer and shows just how much each customer has spent. If you point at a customer and double click on them, it will show you the different item categories that that person purchased from. If you point at one of those and double click, it will show you the details of the receipts that they made the purchases on. And you can look at the actual items. All right. We also have a zip code summary, breaks down sales by zip code. Again, you've got a promo code summary and a customer type summary. If you have customers of different types, it will categorize sales by customer type. Orders lets you look at any orders that may be outstanding. You can look at layaways, sales orders, a summary of your orders, a deposit detail, or anything that may be on back order and that you're waiting to fulfill for customer orders. You simply choose the one you want to see, and you run that report, and it will show you that appropriate information. And we can expand, and we can see the items that are on each of those orders. We also have here information about the rewards program. If you're using the rewards program, you can see what members, what customers are part of the rewards program. You can also see rewards history and see what rewards have been redeemed and who redeemed them. Under items, we can do an item summary. The item summary will show you a list of your items broken down by department. It tells you how many items you have in that particular department, how many you have on order for that department, what the cost is of those items, and what the retail is of those items. And here at the bottom, you can see your extended cost and your extended retail, which would be your inventory value, would be your extended cost. We can also run a summary with activity. A summary with activity is going to show us what our current inventory is, and it shows us how many of each item we have, and it shows us how many we have sold during whatever time period you specify. And we can scroll down through that report and take a look at all of our different items. And if we scroll all the way to the bottom of the list, we get our total retail, we get our total cost, and we get our total sold during our time period we're looking at. When you're running an inventory report, the majority of them are always going to be what your inventory is right now at this moment. So these are showing us what we have on hand at this moment and what the value of that inventory is. This one is subtotaled by department. And again, if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we get our total inventory. Active price simply shows the retail price. Cost is simply the cost of the item, where the extended cost is the cost of all the items you have in inventory, and the extended price would be the retail of those items if you sold them all. I also have on here the last date I received that item. All right. The one kind of special report here is this inventory valuation. Inventory valuation allows you to run this report, and you can run the report for any specific day. And it will show you what your inventory was on that particular day, not necessarily what it is right now. And so you can see what your inventory is at the end of any particular month, at the end of a particular quarter, at the end of last year, whenever you would like to look at it by choosing the day you want to run that report for. And that's the inventory valuation report. That's the only one that lets you see the inventory at any time other than right now at the moment. We can also do a summary graph of our inventory. And it breaks it down again. We can choose how we want to see it, by department, by vendor, by size, by item name, several different options. We have multi-store, which allows us to see our inventory in different stores. We also have adjustments. Adjustments are changes you make to inventory. Those changes might be by going directly to an item in the item list and changing the cost of an item or changing the quantity of items you have on hand. It might be creating an adjustment memo for either cost or inventory, or it might be by doing a physical inventory. When you do that, it will create a quantity adjustment memo for anything that is on your discrepancy list when you finish the inventory, anything you counted whose counts do not match what the computer thought you should have had. And so if we look at a quantity summary, it will show us our adjustment memos and what the difference quantity is for the different item numbers. And at the bottom, it tells us how many items have been adjusted. The one thing you'll notice this report does not tell you is the value of that adjustment. A quantity detail report will show you the value change of those adjustments. And again, you can choose the time period that you want to look at. You can do the same thing for cost. You can take a look at any adjustments you made for cost, not just quantity. The one thing that you do not have is adjustments for retail, because these numbers apply to your accounting more than anything else, and the retail price really doesn't matter from an accounting point of view. So therefore, it doesn't track if the retail price changes, only if the cost or inventory value changes, because those both affect the value of your inventory itself. If you transfer merchandise between stores, you also have summary reports and detail reports to see those transfers. Under purchasing, you're able to take a look at any outstanding purchase orders you may have. Summary will show you any purchase orders you have broken down by vendor. Detail will show you those same purchase orders broken down by individual purchase order, and you can also see the individual items that are on those purchase orders. Cash requirements shows you by vendor how much cash you're going to need to pay off everything you've ordered from a particular vendor. It shows you the total for that particular vendor and how much you have due between certain date ranges. So you can plan out your costs and payments you're going to need to make. There's also receiving reports, which shows you what you have received during a particular time period. And it will show you what vendor, how many items, and the value of the items that you have received during whatever time period you choose. If you change time periods, you want to click the Apply Date Range so that that new time period takes effect. You can also print out a list of your vendors from purchasing. Under employees, if you pay your employees commission, you can run a commission report that shows what commission your employees have earned during the particular sales period that you're looking at. It shows you the total sales number, what percent of commission the employee gets paid, and what that translates to in dollars. The commission level in point of sale is a simple one-level structure. You can pay a flat commission rate. It does not have a staggered or tier rate, so that the more they sell, the more commission they can earn. It's just one rate, whether they sell $1 or $1 million. It's the same rate of commission. You can also look at employee sales, and again, it will break down the sales per employee. It shows the retail, the cost, the margin of those sales, and what commission, if any, that they may have earned. Under employees, you also have time clock. You can see a weekly timesheet. You can choose what week you want to look at, and it then shows you any clock in or clock out that may have occurred during that time period. It shows a breakdown of the days of the week and the hours worked on each particular day, as well as the total for the week. You can also do a time clock detail. That shows you all the clock in and clock outs for a particular employee, or for all the employees, depending on how you're sorted. You can also take a look at a time clock summary. That lets you choose a particular date range by going up here to modify, and under filter, specifying what date range you want to look at, and it shows you the hours worked during that time period. So if your pay period is 2 weeks, instead of looking at 2 different weekly charts and adding it up, you can run the summary for the 2-week time period, and it will show you the resulting hours worked during that time period. And of course, you got a list of your employees. Financial exchange allows you to see any issues you may have had with exchange when you're exchanging data with QuickBooks accounting. So if we look at our receipt exchange and we pick a date range, it will show us all the exchanges we've done and what information was sent over during that exchange. I hate it when I do that. Memorized reports shows us a list of any reports we may have memorized. There is today's receipts, which shows you your receipts that have occurred today. There's the busy times, which shows you what times you're busy. And again, it shows you by hour during whatever time period you choose to look at. We also have the 20 best items, the best and worst report. My inventory valuation, that's an inventory valuation report that was customized and had additional columns or things added to it. A summary test, which was a plain with a summary inventory. And you can modify your reports and then save those modified reports as a memorized report to rerun it should you want to see that result. So like my sales detail, if we run that, we can see that that includes the date, the receipt numbers, the type of receipt it is, who did that receipt, how many items were sold, the total of the receipt, the payment type, and the number of items. When things are cut off like that, I can right-click on the header bar and adjust column width, and it will adjust my columns to fit the things that are in that column. All right. And if I want to modify a report, I can go up here to modify, and I can change this report to see additional information than what it shows normally. So I can go to modify report. If I want to also see the vendor, I can add the vendor by clicking on the little dot. I could also add the item number, the item name, and attributes to the item. I could add the associate who wrote up the sale. I can show discounts that were given on that particular sale. I can add the customer type, department codes, vendor codes, styles, colors, a lot of different things. We go save. We've now saved those changes. We choose the date range that we would like to run our report for. I can also filter this report to narrow down exactly what I'm going to see. I can filter by store, by workstation, by cashier, vendor, department, item numbers, lots of different things I can filter by. I save my changes and I run it, and I get the new version of that report. I can, again, right-click up here, adjust column width. I can readjust my columns by grabbing an item and dragging it to where I would like to see it appear in the list. I can grab my item number and bring it over here after vendor. And the little red arrow shows you where you're going to be dropping it. And so I can rearrange those items, get the report looking the way I want. I can resort it by how I want to see it. When I get the report looking the way I want, I could go up here to I want to, memorize this report, and I can give it a name. And I can say OK. And that report now exists under my memorized reports. And I can run that report and get the exact same thing of the report I just created. If I go back and go to sales and go to item summary, that report is still the original report because I memorized that other report. The other report stays solid. So when I modify a report, I can modify, add or remove columns. I can filter to it. I can change the appearance of the report. I can change the company title. I can change the name of the report. I can add a subtitle if desired. I can add or remove the date that the report was prepared. So I've got several different options I can change under my modifier report or change report appearance. I can also change who has access to that report by setting what security level I want this report to go at and who is going to be able to run this particular report. All right. Not only can I run existing reports, modify reports, I can also create a report. If I go to my overview button, you can see I have an option to create a report. When I choose create a report, I can choose what kind of report I want to create. A sales report, customer report, inventory report, purchasing report, or employee report. If I want to do an inventory report, I can choose inventory. I can go next, and then what kind of report do I want? Do I want an item list, a summarized inventory, a summarized inventory graph, an inventory valuation, or mobile items? Well, if I want an item list, my next choice is, how do I want to summarize this report? By department, by vendor, or by style? Information that is summarized by the selected value if it was on a graph. So we're going to do it by department. We'll go next. Now I get to choose what columns I want in this report. It chooses the most common columns you might want in an inventory report. We've got department, vendor, item number, item name, my quantity on hand, margin percentage, my cost of the individual item, my extended cost, my cost of all the items I have on hand, my active price, the price of an individual item, and the extended price, the price of all the items I have on hand, as well as the last received date and the available quantity. Available quantity and on-hand quantity can be different because available quantity also takes into account things that are on a sales order or layaway. I could also add attributes such as color, and I could add size. I can add other fun things, item type, units of measure if it applies, the item description, alternate lookups, how many do I have on order, reorder points, the order cost of the item. So I can add several different things. I'm going to add on order, and we'll do a save. I could also create any particular filters I might need. I don't need any filters for this one. I'm going to change the name of the report from item detail to item sales, and we'll save that. We will run our report, and it's going to give us those results. I'm going to adjust my columns. I'm going to move attribute over here in size, so they're over here right behind the item name. I'm going to move margin, so it's over here after extended price. I'm going to take my available quantity and move that right after my on-hand quantity. And I'm going to take my on order and move that right after available. And now I have rearranged my report. I have customized it. So if I want to keep that report, I would go to I want to memorize this report, and I would give it a name. We'll call it item sales. We'll say OK. If I close that report, Under Memorize Report, I can see my item sales report, and I can rerun it anytime I want. So not only can you choose one of the pre-created reports that the system has created for you, you can create your own. You can modify the existing reports, and you can save those so that you can rerun them at any time in the future. You might have noticed here when we were on the Overview tab that there are also several reports listed here. Those are some of the reports that Intuit thinks might be commonly run, so they put them here to make them easy to get to. You also get a list of your memorized reports. If you have a memorized report that you don't want any longer, you can go to I Want To, Manage My Reports, and you can modify these reports. You can rename it, you can move it up and down on the list, or you can delete it if you no longer want it. When you're all done with your reports, you can click the Close button down here, and that will close out of your reports. As long as you don't hit that Close button, then you will remain in reports until you choose to close out. All right. Any questions? I don't hear any. All right. So that is reports and QuickBooks Point of Sale. Feel free to give us a call if you have any questions, 916-368-1070, or drop us a note, and we will be glad to get back to you. So have a great one, and we'll talk to you again soon.